The man, the myth, the legend, the brother with more bikes than a Peloton. Mr. James the Jet
Yes,
Jetton. How
sir.
you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great.
I really appreciate you giving me this time and this opportunity to do this. I've talked to you about this a couple times, but before we start, I want to say something to you, right? As a cyclist, I have a lot of respect for you. I'm talking about from Carolina to Georgia to Texas to South Korea. I never met somebody who identified as a cyclist and did not know who you were. So that says a lot about who you are as a person
I
and your
appreciate it.
character. But more importantly, just as a person, I got even more respect for you. And I want to say thank you from the community because you do a lot for us, man. And if no one's giving you your flowers, I'm giving you your flowers to say thank you. I really appreciate it.
I greatly appreciate that, brother.
So let's start off with the origin. How did you find cycling and how long have you been cycling?
Oh man. So I've been cycling now for 6, 7 years. And I started out, it was my commander in the military as I was about to retire. He was like, hey, Sergeant Major, let's get bikes. I think that'll be good for us to get out and do something together. And long story short, I ended up buying a bike and started riding with him and enjoyed it. At the same time, I had left knee problems from playing a lot of basketball and a lot of running and stuff. So um, with that, I found out that cycling was a rehab for my knee. So I stuck with it, and here I am.
At this point in your cycling journey, what's more important, miles on the bike or time on the bike?
Time on the bike, for sure.
Has it always been like that or when was the transition?
No, it wasn't like that until I started racing. Once I started racing and started taking training more serious, that's when I began to looking at training during for time and not the mileage. The mileage is going to come with the training, and it's not about getting a lot of miles in. It's the hours that you put in for your workouts.
On a weekly basis, how many hours are you putting in on a bike?
Right now, I'm in between 10 to 12 hours, which doesn't sound like a lot, but the workouts that I'm doing it is a lot.
Let's talk about some bike, right? Is there such thing as a perfect bike?
No, there's not a perfect bike. It is the person on the bike that's making that bike operate. And I firmly believe in that. Even though I have plenty of bikes, the bikes are not going to get out there and ride themselves. I have to put in the work to make them do what they're supposed to do.
Out of your current collection, what's your favorite bike?
Man, I get asked that so many times. I don't have a favorite bike. The bikes to me, they have their own specific um, job to do, and each one has their own character, their own characteristics that I get out of them. As I get those characteristics out of those bikes, and I feel those bikes out as I'm riding, as I'm training on them, um, I get those characteristics to come out of those bikes to figure out what am I going to use that specific bike for. And once I got that locked and loaded, then I'll know what I'm going to use that bike for. If it's going to be used for a fast group ride, if it's going to be used for just socialization, it's going to be used for training. That's what I get out of those bikes. So it's no, to me, there is no perfect bike in my opinion. Those bikes are meant and built to do specific things. And once you figure that out, what you're trying to get out of it, then you use that bike for that purpose.
Speaking of using bikes for a specific purpose, we have a lot of training rides, and I've been seeing you ride this specific bike a lot, and it's a Fixie.
Mhm.
What is that like training on a Fixie in a group ride?
So the Fixie, I'm a newbie with the Fixie era. I just started at the end of last year riding a Fixie, where I purchased one finally. And getting on it and learning on riding a fixie, that's a totally different feeling from any uh, other geared bike or geared bike. A fixie is something, as far as training wise, it's definitely a good mix of helping you with your cadence, a good mix of helping you with low cadence work, high cadence work as well. So and strength building if you use it the right way. A fixie definitely can help you with your training aspect if you're looking forward to trying to get better as a cyclist. So right now, I haven't ridden it with too many group rides because I'm still kind of new with the fixed gear bike. But at the same token, I'm trying to get out there and train with it. So a lot of times I find myself riding the Fixie alone or solo because I'm using it for training aspects.
For your fixie setup, what gears are you running? Like up front and in the rear?
So currently I'm riding a 50 up front and a 16 in the rear. I was riding a 15 in the rear, but due to our location, we have a lot of hills around here. So I bumped it up to a 16. I may go to a 17, but I think I'm good with a 16 right now.
I think that's a good range right there. Talking about different types of bikes like fixie, road bike, and so on and so forth, do you have any steel bikes?
No, no steel bikes. And I'm gonna say yet, because I have been keeping my eye on some of the older steel bikes, the Bianchis and such. And one of our local guys, Nate Zukas, he builds steel frames and aluminum frames, and I'm trying to get him to build a bike for me, Nate. But at some point, I'll probably get him to do something for me, something special, and it maybe a steel bike. But eventually, I know I'll end up with one, just because of the heritage and the lineage of a steel bike. I want to feel that sensation of what that's like.
Now, talking about different materials and bikes, I call this bike I call it a carbon killer. The LA Sprint for an aluminum bike. What do you think about that bike?
Okay, so the LA, I have the first generation, well, 2019 LA. It's a Peter Sagan version, and then I have the 2022. When it first came out, I purchased that one as well because I like the previous version, the 19. And the 19 is more of a raw, uncut, just I want to go fast, I want to be raced, I want to ride fast type of bike. When I purchased the 2022 LA when it first came out, that LA Sprint is more refined. It's of more forgiving to the road as far as the compliance of the bike. The bike feels, even though it's built like the SL7, it feels more of a carbon bike than a aluminum bike. I have a couple of CADs as well that I like from Cannondale. Those aluminum bikes feel really, really good. But that new LA is really more refined. It feels almost like a carbon bike in this aluminum bike. So I like that bike. I like the LA. I like racing them. I like riding them. So yeah.
I think Specialized hit it out the park with that LA. I'd be really excited and interested if they come out with another version, but make the frame like the SL8. I
I,
think that'd be a good selling point right there.
I would too. I probably would purchase one just because of how the previous versions were. They're a really good bike. So, and cost effectiveness of a aluminum bike versus buying a high end carbon bike is definitely worth your money.
Now I'm gonna talk about another bike brand, and this kind of correlates with Specialized. This bike brand owns a majority stake in Specialized, and they don't sell this bike in North America, but you have one. And the specific one you have is the Bahrain Team Edition. And I'm talking about this Merida Reacto. What drew you to this bike, and what is it like owning and riding that bike?
So, watching the Pro Peloton and watching some of the bikes being raced in the Pro Peloton, doing the Tour de France and other tours, um, I kind of always had my eye on the Merida. And I fell into a chance a year or so ago of purchasing a Merida Reacto from a guy from Florida, and I contacted him, and he was willing to sell me the bike. I ended up driving down, picking it up, purchased the bike. Really, really, really good bike. I wish that bike was sold more in the U.S. And I understand why probably Specialized doesn't want the Merida sold in the U.S. because of how good the bike is. It's a really, really good bike. I'm glad to own it. I want a newer version of the Merida Reacto, but they're hard to get. So I'll just enjoy the current version that I have.
I've seen you ride a bunch of bikes, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm a Trek guy. I used to think he was kind of Trek biased because I'm like, I never see this guy riding a Trek. I personally own a Trek Madone Gen 6. I see you ride that bike a lot. What is it about that Trek Madone?
So I purchased a Trek Madone. Well, let me go back. So you said something about me being biased towards Trek, right? So I've owned two Trek Amandas previous to this Madone, but they were the frame size was a little bit too small for me for both sides. I had a Amanda rim brake version and a disc brake version, and both the 56s were just a tad too small for me. So I found out that Trek most treks I have to ride a 58 or I need a 58 to ride on trek. So I ended up with buying this. I ran into a deal for a Trek Madone, the size 58, and got out and started riding it. And it was really, really, it turned out to be a really good bike to train on and ride. And I purchased it to just train on. I didn't purchase the race or anything like that. And I started training on it, and the bike was just it just felt good. It felt fast, even though it's a little heavier. It's a SL6. Even though it's a little heavier with the 105 version and all that, the bike just was. It just felt really good. So I used it all through my last year of off season training. I stayed on the bike. I just stayed on it a lot and just rode it a lot and found myself being more in tune with that bike as one. So I kind of fell a little bit in love with the bike. So uh, I'll keep it around for now. I want to get the SLR version because I like the SL so much to drop a little bit more weight off the bike and a little bit more stiffer. But so far, I really like the Trek Madone. Really good bike. I ain't gonna say I'm surprised because I'm never surprised on any bike that I purchase. But I would say I didn't expect for the bike to ride like it rides. It's a really, really good bike.
So now that we know you're not brand biased, right?
Yeah.
There's a marketing thing that people always put out, and I want to know, do you think this is true or not? And the kind of brand marketing is they say that the package matters, meaning like if you get a tarmac, it's going to ride better with the Rapide cockpit, with the Rover wheels. If you get a factor bike, the factor bars, the black ink wheels, do you think that whole package really matters, or you think it's more just marketing?
I think it's a little bit of both. So I know the marketing piece of it is they build the bikes up and they some companies have wind tunnel testing, some don't. But for the ones that do have the wind tunnel testing, I know they test the products out with different things to make the bikes better. However, you as a person, you as an individual, if that specific handlebars or wheels that come with the purchase or package of that bike doesn't work for you, then you need to do what you need to do to make yourself one with that bike and the bike compliant for you. I wouldn't necessarily say that you should stay with a package that's marketed for a brand just so you can have all the right tools for that bike. If you got to put a different set of wheels on it to make the bike better for you, or different handlebars, different saddle, whatever you got to do to make the bike better for you, that's what you need to do. If you're a person that don't like a certain components that come on a specific bike that you like, get the components that you like and put on the bike.
Definitely. I'm a much in agreement with that. Now, dipping into bike building, this is a conversation that I had with my dad not too long ago. And the question I have for you is preference wise, if you get ready to build a bike, what are you kind of leaning more towards in the beginning? The wheel and tire package or the frame and bar package?
Frame, without a shadow of a doubt. If I'm going to build a bike, the frame is the number one thing I'm gonna look at starting with, because it really doesn't matter about the components, the wheels, and all that if I don't have the correct frame or the proper frame that I would like to have to do what I need to do with. If I have a good frame, then I have a really good base to start with, and then I can go out and source all the other things that I need to build up that frame the correct way that I want to ride it.
When you are building these bikes, have you ever had a bike that was the wrong size?
Yes.
What was that like? And how did you figure out, like, man, this is not the right bike size for me?
I've had a couple bikes that those are wrong size. As I previously stated, I had the Amandas, the size 56. They were just too small, and didn't get a chance to. I haven't had a chance to own a size 58 Amanda, but eventually I know I probably will if they continue to build a bike, and I'll try one out. But the 56 was just too small. I had a Scott Full in a size 54. I tried to stretch that bike out. I was able to ride it, but it was just too small for me. In the Scott, I needed a 56 for that bike, but I ended up selling it as well. And I think I had one other bike that was wrong size. It was a 54 CAD. I had a CAD 10 size 54. I ended up selling it as well. Just couldn't stretch it out enough to make it work for me. So um, I mostly know most bike brands now around the size that I need, um, stack height and all that to look at making it fit for me.
And when we talk about making bikes fit, regarding bike fit, how many professional bike fits have you had?
I've had three from three different places, uh, and from those bike fits, they seem to work pretty well. They really helped me, and this was more of when I first began to ride bikes. I didn't trust myself enough or anyone that was local enough to know how to put me on the bike. So I went and paid a couple $100 to have a professional bike fitter put me on the bike correctly. And over time, um, I started to begin to learn more about bikes, learn more about myself as to how to fit myself onto the bikes and get on there proper.
So when you are fitting onto a bike, when you get a new bike, what's your process for like transferring bike fit? You know what I mean? Because I know you're not going every time with a new bike to get a new bike fit. What's your process for transferring that bike fit to the new bike?
Yeah, so I look at dimensions of a frame that I have that I'm purchasing. If I have a bike currently that's in that same dimensions of or geometry of the bike that I'm purchasing, if I have one that's really close to that geometry, then it's easy for me to transfer the data over to that bike that's new to me. And once I transfer those digits over to that specific bike, I go out and test ride it, test ride it, test ride it. Now I may stay on that one particular bike for 2 or 3 weeks until I'm sure that I'm dialed in on it, and I'll take it on various different rides. I may go out on a couple fast group rides with that bike to ensure that I'm on it good and I'm not going to get uh, fatigued in any kind of way because I'm not on the bike correctly.
I think everyone that's been cycling for a good minute, their bike fit has either changed or evolved to something different. Like me personally, I'm kind of more on the front of the bike now. What is your riding position on the bike? Do you prefer like a zero offset saddle, something with more setback, a longer stem, shorter stem? How are you sitting on the bike?
Yeah, so that for me, it all depends on the bike that I'm purchasing. So if I purchase a bike that's a little bit smaller geometry, a little bit smaller frame, yeah, I may not go with a zero set, but I do like zero set offset seat posts. However, it really just depends on the geometry of the bike. I'll look at the numbers of the frame in depth before I make changes as to how I'm gonna purchase certain things for the bike, the stem, the seat post, and all that. Once I get that figured out, the geometry of the frame, then that'll give me a good picture of what I need to do as far as the other parts. And from that'll set me. It should set me once I put my data numbers in on the bike and set it up. It should set me exactly where I want to be at. I may have to make a couple tweaks here and there out on a ride because certain things may feel a little bit off, especially on endurance rides. But for the most part, I should be dialed in uh, from doing that process.
Going deeper into bike fit, we'll talk about pedal stroke. When you are pedaling the bike and your foot is like at that 6 o'clock position, are you more heels down, foot flat, or toes down?
So most of the time when I'm riding, I notice I'm more almost flat footed, maybe a little bit toe down. However, I switch up during a ride, sometimes to change different muscle groups. especially when I'm climbing. When I'm climbing, sometimes I'll drop my heels a lot to save different muscle groups to so they won't fatigue out, and also to give me more power once I drop my heels as well. So that fluctuates over a period of a ride as to how my feet are coming down on the pedals.
One of the things that I admire about your riding, right? I'll be on your Strava, right? And I'll be looking at your stats. And this is more specifically for training rides. Whenever I'm looking at your data, I look at the cadence. Now, I'm not talking about the specific RPM number, but just the chart. Man, your chart be super, super smooth, very flat, very consistent. How did you get your pedal stroke like that? And what advice would you give to someone that's trying to improve their pedal stroke?
That's a great question. So out of that question, I'm gonna tell you, it was people when I first started riding. It was people that kind of took me under their wings and told me, threw me a little couple bones here and there, and I was a low cadence guy, just like everybody else. That first when they first start out cycling, they're very low cadence, and we don't know any better. So I had a couple people that got on me and was like, you need to work on your cadence. You need to work on your cadence. And once I started working on my cadence, spending more time learning what cadence is and how to do it, and how to be better with my cadence. Um, that was put into training, and I started just working on my cadence and ensuring that I'm staying on the pedal. My pedal stroke doesn't stop. I hate to stop. Anybody that knows me, like I don't like rest breaks. I don't like to stop. I hate stop signs. I hate stop lights. Everything that stops me on the bike, I don't like it. Um, so most of the time I'm usually continuing my pedal stroke, and I like my pedal stroke continue to flow. And so I don't like to stop until I'm done riding that specific ride or training session. So with cadence is something that I had to work on over the years, and I've gotten better at.
You mentioned cadence a couple times. What's a good or optimal cadence for you?
For me, it all depends. So if I'm in a race or if I'm in a group ride, if I'm in a group ride, uh, it could fluctuate because you get people that's in front of you. You may stop pedaling, so that's going to throw some zeros in there. But if I'm in racing, if I'm in a race session, a crit or a road race, those will vary as well. Um, but I would like those in the low 90s if I'm doing either one of those, crit race, any kind of racing. I like to be in the low 90s if I can be, um, and that tells me that I'm being very uh, efficient as to how I'm saving myself for the period of that race.
Are you a rollers guy? You ever be on rollers?
I do ride rollers, yes. I love rollers. I would much more prefer to be on rollers than a smart trainer.
Oh, wow. That says a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, I love rollers.
You have a YouTube channel,
Hmm.
and I appreciate you uploading a little bit more now. I'll be following you for a minute and you put
Yeah.
some more videos out. You do a lot of raw content from group rides, races. I personally enjoy the content. A lot of times I'm on a smart trainer. Sometimes I don't want to listen to music and I just need to see some actual road. Moving forward for like your YouTube content creation, do you have any aspirations to do more with that? Would you like to do more with that?
I, I wouldn't say I have more aspirations to do more or expand more on my YouTube channel, other than just sharing some of the races, some of the group rides that I participate in or I'm around. Other than that, no, I don't think I have more inspiration into going further with the YouTube channel, other than just sharing the day-to-day stuff that I do. That's about it.
Okay, that sounds good. In 2025, I'm saying that this is the year of the factor. There have been a lot of factor bikes all over the place. I personally love it. You own a factor Austro van. Is this bike the truth? Tell me about this bike.
So, um, you asked me a question earlier about characteristics and is there a perfect bike? And I would tell you the Factor Austro. I originally purchased the Factor Austro when I first seen it when it first came out. I liked how they looked and the aesthetics of it all. They looked really well. So I purchased one, rode it, and really like how the bike rides. If you know me, you know that I'm a big fan of the Cannondale System 6. And so with Cannondale System 6, this Ostrovam, it rides very similar, but it's a lot lighter. And it's lighter and it's more nimble, and it does and holds speed just as good as the Cannondale System 6, but it rides a lot smoother. It's not as harsh and it's not as heavy. However, with the Ostro Vam, it's a really good bike. I don't want to sound like I'm being this thing that we always do. It's, oh, yeah, it's the best bike in the world and it rides so good. I don't want to be that way in saying about the Ostro Vam. It's just a good bike. That's the best thing I could put with it, or best thing I say about it is it's just a good bike.
So you have a Factor Ostrovam version 1 and a version 2. I personally have a version 1. Is it worth getting a version 2? Would you recommend it?
I do feel a difference from the version 2 to the version 1. Um, it does feel a little bit more slippier than version 1. Does feel a little bit more aerodynamic. I could say that for sure. It does feel a little bit more compliant, just a little bit. Uh, but that's about the only difference that I feel from it. It does feel like it holds speed just a little bit better than the version 1. But they're set up a little different. Version 1 that I have has Princeton's on it. Version 2 that I have has the Black Inks on it. Um, and it is made a little bit more aerodynamic than version 1 as well. So um, that's about all I can say. It just feels a little bit faster to me, but they're both good bikes. They're really good bikes. I like the Factors a lot.
Talking about comfort and compliance for these two bikes specifically and how you have them set up, are you running tubeless? Are you running tubes? Like what size tire and about like what air pressure are you running?
Yeah, so I'm running TPUs in both. Um, and for my body weight, I'm running around 80 to 82 psi in front and rear. So it's not much to that. And for tires, both of them have 28s on front and rears as well.
Now, when you talk about also the setup, the version 1 and version 2, talk about just wheels. The black ink wheels versus the Princeton carbon wheels. Which would you prefer out of those two?
Oh man, that's a toss up. They both feel really well. Only difference I could say for both of them right now that I could tell you is the Princetons feel a little bit more stable with winds. Both of them very lightweight for the depth that they are. Very lightweight for the depth that they are. Both spin up very well. Both ride very well. Both compliant. Both a very good set of wheels. It's just the black inks get thrown around a little bit in the wind. That's about it.
I get a lot of questions on the channel regarding the Princeton carbon wheels. And you've ridden a bunch of different wheels, way more wheels than I have ridden. Where would you rack and stack the Princeton carbons? Is it like at the top? Would you consider it more like premium? Or is it just a good wheel, but there's others that compare to that?
Oh yeah, it's definitely other wheels out there. However, the Princetons, if you want a good set of wheels, the Princetons are definitely in the top tier of wheels. And I'm not saying that because of they don't give me wheels to say this or anything like that. I don't get a free set of wheels. If you hear this, Princeton, if you want to give me a set of wheels to ride on, great, I would take it. But the Princeton wheels are a really good top tier wheel. That's the best thing I can say about it. Really good wheels. I have no qualms on them. No, nothing. Really good wheels. They're worth the money, although they're overpriced. Just like everything else in cycling world is overpriced, but it is what you got to pay for what you want. So it is what it is.
With me saying that 2025 is a year of the factor, I also want to say, and you can agree with this statement or disagree, I think if you wanted a factor Ostrovam, now is the time to buy. With the version 2 out, there's so many deals going on with the version 1s. I'm seeing them all over the place. Would you agree or disagree with now's being a good time to buy a factor?
Yeah. Well, it really depends on your pocket. But if your pockets are good, yes, it's a good time to buy any kind of bike right now because how the bike market is right now. But the fact that version one definitely is marked down a little bit now because version two is out. But yeah, if that floats your boat, it'd be a good bike to get. And then they're always a good value anyway because they're direct to consumer. So it cuts out the middleman. The factor does, just kind of like Canyon. So you can get a good value for a good bang for the buck with those bikes.
And speaking of the direct to consumer, and I noticed your hat, I was going to ask you about this Canyon Arrow Road. My dad has an Arrow Road. I know a couple buddies that got them, and I have an interest in them. Is the Arrow Road that good too?
Yeah, so I had an Arrow Road. Oh, so that was, I could add that to the list of bikes that was too small for me. So I had an Arrow Road, and it was a size medium. And the size medium, I made it work for me, but it was just a tad too small for me. So I sold it, and I was supposed to purchase the large. And as I purchased bikes, I purchased them versus the timing of the bike, the prices of the bikes, and the market and all that other stuff. So I just haven't had, I just haven't ran into the timing of me purchasing my second Arrow Road, but I will own another Arrow Road at some point. Um, but I forgot the other part of the question you asked me. You asked me
Is
something.
it, how was the bike?
Oh,
But you answered it. You said it's a good
okay.
bike, and if you're going to purchase another one, then that lets me know that that's a good bike.
Yeah, it's a good bike. I currently own a CFR Ultimate, Ultimate CFR. Really like that bike. Um, I have it built up for more climbing because it's so lightweight. So I don't use it for other stuff other than just climbing mostly. But I do plan on purchasing another Arrow Road at some point.
So I'm gonna give you some this or that's, right? You got to pick one, and you
Okay.
can expound on it, right? And there's a couple of them. So the first one, would you prefer a heavier aero bike or a lighter weight climbing bike?
So for me, that's an easy one, easy question. I prefer a heavier, stiffer. I love stiff bikes. If the stiffer the bike, to me, I don't know what it is about me. I just like really stiff bikes. And most aero bikes are stiffer bikes. A climbing bike, most climbing bikes, some of them can be stiffer, and can climb, and that helps with the climbing. Like I have a Villier Zero SLR that is pretty stiff for a climbing bike, for a race bike, and that bike feels really well. So it really helps me climb better because it's transferring all the little bit of power that I do have to the wheels and the road. So, but to answer your question, yeah, definitely an aero bike,
Tubeless or tubes?
tubes.
You said that quick.
Yeah, tubes. I I have a couple gravel bikes that I have to run tubeless. Um, and if you gravel, you know you need to be tubeless. But other than that, all my other bikes are just tubes, and I just rather not deal with the pain of. And I know a lot of people say it's not that difficult. Yeah, I know it's not that difficult to run tubeless. However, once that cylinder start poking out, and I've seen buddies on different group rides just have issues with it, and then they end up throwing a tube in the bike anyway. So I was like, well, why don't you just stay with a tube? So that's
I'm about to give you a
that's me.
master class on
Yes,
tubeless.
sir. Yes, sir.
28s and below or 30s and up tire size?
For years I was a 25. I didn't say for years. Yeah, for years I was a 25, and until recently I purchased some 28s, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. 28s. I do have a couple bikes that have 30s on them. I like those. They're pretty comfy. I use them for my longer rides. But 28s is kind of where I'm at right now.
Disc brake or rim brake?
Oh man, you put me on the spot. So I love my rim brake bikes. I love rim brakes. Rim brakes is, I don't know, something about it. I really like rim brake bikes, and the more and more that the market is going away from them, it seems like it's attracting me to them even more because the industry is going more to disc brakes. So the rim brake bikes that I do have, I know I'm probably gonna hold on to them for a long time because of how the market's going, and I enjoy riding them. I enjoy the feel of them. And I hate when I'm out on a ride, a group ride, and your disc brake starts scrubbing. There's nothing you can do, and in the group ride is a fast group ride, and you can't even stop to make any adjustments or anything. So you're stuck with that scrub, and in your head is playing that you're losing power because you got this friction going on with your pistons and your discs, and just it drives you crazy. So and especially don't get on you're out on a ride, you're in the rain, and once that water hit them, they're gonna warp a little bit, and now they're gonna make all kind of noise. They're gonna squeal and everything. So yeah, I'm a rim brake person because they're less hassle, less to deal with, less maintenance and all.
Short cranks or long cranks?
So right now I'm on 172.5s. I haven't ventured into changing all my bikes to anything shorter. However, I have changed two of my bikes to 165s just to try out, test run. And I tried it over this off season. I rode them good little bit to see what kind of difference, looking at the data after rides to see what kind of difference those 165s gave me and how I felt with 165s as far as riding. And I felt a little difference out of them, but I'm still stuck on my 172.5s. I think the next size I want to try is 170s, and I want to try the 170s for a longer term. And I'm gonna stay with the 165 on one of my current bikes to see and continue to play around with that to see if that helps any. Um, and I definitely want to try 170 as well just to see. But 172.5 right now, I feel good with.
Factor or specialized?
Oh man, you're gonna get me to. I'm not gonna versus brands against each other because, as I say, bright bikes themselves have different characteristics, and it really depends on you as a person as to how that bike performs out there in the field as far as racing, as far as training, or whatever you're doing with that bike. It really just depends on you as a person. Um, so I don't want to. I want to answer your question, but I don't want to answer your question to put bike brands against each other. That makes sense.
Well, I got another brand for you. Garmin or Wahoo?
So I never owned a Garmin computer, but for Wahoo, I like Wahoo computers. I've had a couple that had issues in the past that I had to get sent back, but for warranty wise, and they warranted them for me. But simplicity of using a Wahoo computer is pretty good, so that's why I kind of just been stuck with them.
Paceline or Peloton ride? What do you prefer?
I I much prefer to be with a pace line with a group of guys and girls that I'm accustomed riding with on a regular basis because in that instance you get to train together, you get to know each other's tendencies, and you get better and stronger together over a period of time. Versus a Peloton, you go to this big group ride and you have 50 to 60 people and they're out there riding and you got all kind of different uh, levels of persons that's out there riding, and you just don't know what's going to happen. Uh, so that mix of you have some really stronger and girls that's out there in the ride, and you have some beginners that's on that same Peloton ride, and that could get dicey. So yeah, I much prefer to have a smaller group or solo uh, to ride with, to train with, and to grow with.
What holds more weight to you? Local legend or KOM?
Neither. To be honest, neither. Um, I try not to pay. I used to, but now I try not to pay any attention to those things. That's just Strava being Strava, and those things could take you outside of your training aspects when you're out training. So a lot of times I mute those things and turn them off, and I don't really pay any attention to them anymore, as far as KOMs or local legend. Now, every once in a while, I may go after a KOM if I'm out riding or something. I'm just BSing. But for the most part, I don't really pay those things attention anymore.
Not to put you on the spot, but this is a question I personally want to know, and I know there's a lot of my audience that this would pertain to. Cycling over 50, What does that look like? And like, how's that transition? What's like fueling strategy? Like, what does that look like for you?
So cycling over 50. Um, as I was retiring from the military, as I said, I was getting older and my left knee was giving me issues, and running and playing basketball was something that my doctor definitely didn't want me to do. So with cycling, I found that, and my knee wasn't hurting from it. My body wasn't taking a beating from it. And as I was getting older, I was like, I needed something to continue having this high adrenaline that I needed as well, because I jumped out of planes for over 20 years and I was a jump master. And having this cycling to fill that void of the adrenaline rush that I was getting in the military, and the high physical fitness that I was getting in the military, this cycling really helped that. So over 50 and beyond, I hope cycling stays with me, and I don't see it not staying with me. But as I grow older, cycling is definitely in my blood, and cycling's going to be here, and I'm looking forward to it, and it's definitely helping me stay younger.
When you talk about this adrenaline rush and getting something else from riding that bike, what made you get into racing?
So I had a couple friends, Kev, Tim, a couple guys from Atlanta, um, Dennis, DJ. Those guys was really pushing me. I would go ride with them on some of the faster group rides, and those guys would push me and be like, "Hey, you need to race. You need to race, man. You need to race." And they had started racing maybe a year or two before me, and eventually I took the bug and I said, "All right, let me go try it out, so then get these guys off my back." So when try to race. If you guys know about Hateville, I tried to during Speed Week. That was my first race. Was a technical crit race, and during Speed Week in Hateville, Georgia. I did that race with a couple guys that was on the MACC racing team, and I jumped in as a guest racer and ended up winning the race. Um, my very first race on a technical crit, won it solo, four laps by myself, and from that point on, the bug had bit me, and it was a race the very next day, and I stayed in the area. I went and did the College Park race as well as a Cat 5, and won that race. And I was like, well, it can't be that easy. I mean, it can't be that hard. I'm winning these races out. Maybe this is something for me. Maybe I stick with this. But I would say that the adrenaline rush that I was getting from those races was the same adrenaline I was getting from jumping out of airplanes and doing some of the other things I did in the military. So it gave me that rush that I kind of wanted, kind of needed. So um, ever since then, I just stuck with it and continued to race. And I know over 50, you said the over 50 thing. Over 50 is not I say for me, it's not an age you really want to start into new things such as racing a bike. However, I've gotten a good little bit of fun and aspirations of getting out there and doing it. It's been a blast.
We were talking about the want to race. Now, when you started to race, did you feel like you was kind of already ready, at least to some extent, or when you started racing, you was like, man, I'm well. You won the first two races,
Yeah.
so
Well, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't. I really didn't. I didn't know what I was doing when I went out there for the first race. All I had been doing was fast group rides, and I went out there and I said, let me try this out. And went out and tried it out, and it was for me. It was something that I really enjoyed doing. I really like doing. And most of the guys that I race with now, I race in the Masters field now. And most of the guys that I race with, they all are in the same boat as me. None of us want to go down. None of us are trying to know tricky stuff and no crazy moves and all that. We just want to go out there, have a good race, and whatever the results is, and then go home.
I know you were a well-known cyclist, and you've been in a bunch of different areas. Out of all people to race for, why Mac?
So, um, Mac was the group the team that was kind of pushing me and egging me towards going to race and trying to race out. And then they supported me through the process. And then once I made my decision to race and yeah, I'll stick with it, then it was a no-brainer to be with MACC, and very, very thankful that I'm with them.
I'm gonna give you an acronym, right? And you could let me know if I got this wrong. It's MTNC out in Atlanta, and it stands for Marietta Tuesday Night Crit. What is that about, and what's that experience like?
So the Marietta Tuesday Night Crit, the MTNC is a really, really good training tool for those that are racing crits or those that are training to in the future to race a crit. The Marietta crit training area is really good. It's a really good tool. I enjoy using it for my crit training. And I don't get to go there often because it's like a 3 hour drive from where we live at. But I do go when I get a chance to go, train up with some of the guys that I race with on the team, and also to get some good training in.
So the Marietta Tuesday Night Crit, man, for 3 hours away. I know you told me about it. I do have an interest. I'm gonna have to go out there and try it at least one time. Like I said, I feel honored and privileged to have this opportunity to talk to you. I really appreciate you giving me your time to sit down here and talk about this. As some closing comments, do you have anything you want to say to anybody, people that's trying to get into bike racing, to get on the bike, just any words of wisdom?
Wow. So first of all, I want to thank you for doing this and doing what you do for the community of cycling as well, because you've come into this. And I've watched you just as well as you watch me. I watch you come into this world of cycling and doing the things that you're doing and learning the things that you're learning, moving the way you're moving. You're moving in the right direction. You just got to continue to do what you do. And it'll pay off just as well as any of us that are in this community. But as far as anyone that's coming into cycling, I would say if you're coming into cycling, first off, get a bike that fits you. We talked about that earlier. Get a bike that fits you and a bike that you're going to use. Get the bike that you're going to use for whatever purpose you're going to use it for. Don't buy something that I've watched countless of people come into cycling and they have a hybrid or they have a gravel bike and they want to do road, or they have vice versa. They have a road bike, but they want to do gravel or they want to do hybrid stuff on the paths or whatnot. Get the bike that is going to serve for you for what you want to do. And also, on the same token, purchase the bike if you want to get into road and you know that eventually you want to get into doing some of the group rides. Get a bike that's going to be compatible for you to do those group rides. Don't buy some. I mean, you can go buy an 8 speed bike or something like that with some Tiagra or something like that on it, or Sierras. I can't think of what it is for Shimano, but um,
So
get Sora. Get a bike that's going to Claris is the other one. Get a bike that's going to serve the purpose the first time for what you're gonna do with that particular bike. Because if you buy something, I get a lot of people, and I did the same thing when I first got in. I don't want to spend a lot of money on my first bike because I don't know if I'm gonna stick with this. Well, some really, really good bikes in the used uh, marketplace or anywhere else on the internet. You can find a really good used bike that has really good components on it and not spend a lot of money to do what you want to do with it. Go that route. And then the next thing is find someone that can help you along the way, your journey into getting into cycling. Because if you go at it like I did, for the most part, when I first started, I spent a ton of money on a lot of stuff I didn't need or bought the wrong thing. Um, and ended up getting in the cycling, staying into it, and all that stuff. I ended up selling it or just giving it away because I didn't need those particular things, such as, for instance, like your kit. My kit was too big for me, and I ended up selling most of those kits because I didn't want to have that feeling of having something tight on me and all that. So just get with someone that already knows what is going on with cycling, and hopefully they'll share the information that you need as you're getting into it. But to answer more into your question, cycling is definitely a really, really good tool to use for fitness and to continue to something you continue to use as you get older as well. So mentally and physically, cycling is something that's definitely has helped me throughout my journey and throughout my life. So I definitely plan on sticking with it.
On behalf of Rob Media, I'd like to give you your official Rob Media
Oh
merch.
man,
You can
he
do whatever you want with that. You cut the grass in it, anything.
he done t-shirted me. Appreciate it, brother.
And we appreciate you, man. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yes, sir.
All right, family,
Definitely.
we are out.
All right.